supposed to.
Okay.
Yeah. So Fam Nutra. Let's see, are we live? Do do ba dee ba dee do top tie ba do ba do ba do ba do ba do ba do dip 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 ba do ba do boop ba do ba do ba do boop.
We should do some improvised jazz.
Okay, I'll do that.
Hello, Cad.
Kent? Is he
Cad.
still named Kent?
Cad. I'm told it's someone else. He's a real proper Cad.
Oh, okay. So Fam is in the house.
Just do your own thing.
Yeah. I'm setting up. We're live, but we're pre-game.
Yeah.
Joe, put another table,
Yes.
another chair up, please.
What? On stage? But it's perfectly balanced. Oh, bum.
If Ben makes it, Fam is
Yeah.
here. So Fam, please come to the stage. Take a seat. And if Ben makes it, then he would be as well. Okay.
This burns my soul.
I'm still here.
We're so far apart.
What?
There you go, darlings.
Okay, we're starting sharp.
Ish.
Yay.
Sharpish. Okay, hello Fam. Quick sound check, please. Voice.
J'en ai vu, mais ton chanteur n'a pas tout temps vendre à la vie jeter la musique. Qu'est-ce que je pas chantant à lever, qu'est-ce que fait je peux tard?
Oui, bien
Parce que je
sûr.
te. Пострашні скаляння, постракаяни тошніті, постракожні, палачання, позвіння. You got enough.
Okay, does anybody
Ja nie
see
panie mają paruskie.
anybody see
also read
Draxter guest?
Yeah,
do,
it's
he's
right
behind
behind you. He's behind you!
Draxter guest is behind me. Here he is, and
He's behind you!
his name is still Kent By. I
No,
can't.
it's Ben Lang.
Whoa, I see Kent By though.
I see Ben Lang.
Everyone
Ben
sees
Lang as
Ben
well.
Lang.
Wow. Hey Kent By, aka Ben Lang. This was used by Kent By, this avatar, but he took a shower after he logged in.
Ew.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, man. Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome.
see.
Very jazzy in here.
Right
Yeah,
click the
very.
chair, dude. Right click the chair. Hold on. We gotta. Ooh, there's another one with a buzz, but that's not me this time.
Am I buzzing? I might be buzzing.
Yeah, me too. Then we're the two buzzers. Buzzy, busy bees. Okay, Ben, right click the chair and choose sit here. Oh, God. Can you believe I missed
Is
a
there a way to
SANSAR?
turn on push to talk so that I'm not buzzing on you guys?
That's a good idea. If you're disciplined with that, a lot of people forget to. We'll remind you when we don't hear you. I'll do the same thing.
I think that's not built into the viewer though. It's something you do with your headset.
You can do it on the headset, yeah, but you can do it on the viewer. You just don't forget.
Yeah, but there isn't a function that does that in the viewer. But you know.
You can designate a key, but you can just hit the speak button on the bottom. It's no problem.
Okay, that'll work.
Usually the middle mouse button does that.
You have to designate it, I think. Okay, we're gonna go live in 1 minute. And I just have to say that I have to run out at 11:15 SLT sharp, so we're not going over time, and that's a threat. No, it's a promise.
Ooh.
But was it gonna
You
go
know I'd win in a fight.
Fam Nutra, our guest Fam Nutra. I need your voice check. We're going live in 30 seconds.
Wow, Fam looks
How
a
do I
bit like
rotate
a...
my view?
Okay, Fam is working on it. That's cool. If we're just gonna start, and I'll go from Joe from stage left. Okay, Relog, fam. No problem. We'll bring you in when you come in. Alrighty. And here we go. We should pause the music. You can bring it down, or you can just...
Just click the music note at the top of your screen and the music will be gone.
Right.
It will vanish.
It's magic. It's a kind of magic. Okay, here I go. Hello and welcome to the Drax Files Radio Hour with Joe Yardley. My name is Draxter Dupre, and right off the bat, I am apologizing for my hum. I know I actually bumped into Ebbe recently, CEO of Linden Lab, in a virtual world that shall not be named. Actually, it shall be named because we're going to talk about it. And he told me, "Who is humming?" And I said, "It's me." And he said, "What? You're supposed to be a professional." So I apologize. Joe loves that. Hi, Joe. How are you
Why
doing?
on earth? Yeah, hello.
So we have a very illustrious gaggle of friends here on stage, and we'll introduce each one in order. But first, let me say the title of the show today is SANSAR Anxiety Ever Growing. Now, there are other things happening today, or have happened, that pertain primarily to the United States of America. We are, of course, an international panel. We're not talking about the type of anxiety that is induced in a lot of friends concerning what's happening on the world stage. We're going to try to
Phew.
avoid that topic, and that's a promise. We even opted not to use orange chairs for this show. Now, the topic of discussion, Joe,
Yes.
is SANSAR. SANSAR, the new virtual world that is
Yeah,
in
heard
closed
of it.
beta, and as we had talked about last week, I revealed myself as a user because I was hired to put out promotional videos, and I did the first one with Lost Hide. And this is how I want to start off the discussion here today. What, based on the information that you guys have, obviously I cannot disclose a lot because I'm under NDA, but we also have someone on stage who has seen SANSAR, who was on the inside, and his name is Ben Lang. But I'll go ahead of myself here. We're gonna go left to right. Introduce yourself, please, Joe. You don't have to because we know who you are. But based on the video, based on the SANSAR promotional video that undoubtedly folks have seen, and the information that we have, what is your biggest fear about SANSAR, and what's your biggest hope? So, Joe, you go first.
Well, my biggest fear is, and I think everyone already knows that, is that we do not get easy building tools in world, and I know we won't get them right away, and we will get them eventually. Also, Ebbe has said, but I think that the more barriers you build between visiting the virtual world and actually creating yourself, that is not a good thing. So I hope that they're going to do more with that, because even if you're not a professional builder, even if you don't want to build these massive things, even average users who just want to go shopping and dancing, now and then they want to build something, they want to create something, and those of us who are builders and creators, we all started with just gluing two prints together. So I hope, and that's what I fear, is that they're going to make it very difficult for people to build stuff. And my hopes are that it's going to be very cheap. I'm Dutch. So
Cheap in
I'm
terms of
expecting,
land, yeah.
Yes, I'm expecting land to be cheap, and that the limits for what we can do there are not the same as in Second Life.
Let me ask you. Let me ask one follow-up question. I'm going to ask one follow-up question each, so we get the discussion going. Now, come on, Joe. Why do people need to build their own things when they want to do a club? Why can't they just buy it from a professional who works in Maya or Blender?
Because the thing is, and that is how most builders in Second Life start, is that sometimes you want to buy something, but it's not available. And that is how I started in Second Life. That is why 1920s Berlin exists. I wanted to visit 1920s Berlin, and it didn't exist, so I had to build it.
Are you making
You
a
know,
case
be
for self-taught builders here, Joe?
yes,
That is
us
really unfair.
amateurs.
What about the professionals? What about the professionals who go to school for building? You're taking their
Oh,
business
they'll
away.
survive. They'll survive. They'll
Okay,
find other things to do.
okay, we're gonna move
See,
to.
there's
Okay, go
always
ahead.
going to be people who, chairs like these. I can't build them. That is professional stuff. That is advanced. You don't build that in world with prims. So there will always be those who are professionals who can make better stuff than anyone else. But I'm an amateur. I don't use 3D software, but I built 1920s Berlin, and that looks pretty decent, and it will remain
Okay, I'm gonna
looking
cut
pretty
you.
decent for at least a few more years. Yeah, yeah, yeah. All
I'm
right,
gonna
I'm
cut
done.
you
I'm done.
off.
I'm done.
I'm gonna cut
I'm
you off
done.
here. When
Too late. I'm done.
the lying press, you cut you off here. Uh, now,
Fake news.
we
Fake news.
we are also streaming on YouTube, so there's a whole bunch of people watching on YouTube. They can chime in with their questions as well. Again, I apologize for the humming. We have a nice audience here in the club. They can just type it in the local chat. I'll read it. Now, Eric Mondrian, longtime SL resident, and if I may call you also SL advocate at the university that you're enrolled in, which is really great. I know how hard the life of an evangelist can be when they're being laughed at about like what you're wasting your time in this world. Eric, same question to you. What is your biggest fear and your biggest hope about Sansar?
Sure, yeah. And should I introduce myself as well, or should I just go ahead with the questions?
You have a future
You kind of
career in
provided an
you
introduction.
you you have a career in radio by reminding me that I haven't properly introduced yourself. Please introduce yourself. No, of course. Go ahead.
Okay, no problem. Not trying to do your job. No, yeah. So as you said, though, I've been in Second Life for quite a while. I've been here almost 12 years. I've been in various virtual worlds for about 20 years. I got on the internet in 1994, and from the very start was very interested in online communities, from IRC to the Palace, active worlds, there, worlds away, various MUDs. So I've been in a number of different text-based 2D and 3D worlds. Have a master's in mass communication and media studies, where I focused on virtual worlds as new media. And as you mentioned, I'm currently at the California Institute of the Arts doing an MFA, and I just taught a course called Virtual Worlds Real Artists, where we looked at various people working, thanks to your videos actually, especially thanks to the Drax files, looking at various artists who have used virtual worlds to make and exhibit their art. And also, and we looked at you, Joe, actually, as well. I showed them your video. But yeah, so we
I
looked
deny
at,
everything.
especially Second Life. They were interested in 1920s Berlin. I made a point to show them that.
That's good to hear.
But yeah, for Sansar, I think looking at the articles recently, my biggest fear probably stems from Ebby's attitude that I've seen in some of the more recent articles about avoiding complete geekdom, and also like his view in the Wired UK article, I believe it was, about how he expects most of these spaces to be owned by corporations and institutions like that. So I think I have a similar fear to Joe, where I'm hoping that there is a level of accessibility, and I also I will miss the in-world tools. I've seen a lot of ways that people can play with the in-world tools, whether it's a game like Primtionary, particularly Pictionary, but again, you're playing with prims. I think there's something to be said as well for having a single world. I mean, I love the fact that you have private regions and people can make their own spaces that are more under their control than they would be if they were on the mainland. But I do think we're going to lose something for a lot of residents if we don't have that sense of a connected world.
Really
So
quickly,
those are
Eric,
some of my
because I
fears.
want to get this. These are very good points. I apologize for stepping on you. I want to get the introductions going fairly quickly so we can go into a discussion about this. Your biggest hope about Sansar, and let me contextualize. You mentioned the complete geekdom. That's an epic quote from this recent media blitz. I think it was VentureBeat. Ben Lang may correct me later, but I want to talk about that too. So, what's your biggest hope, or what do you think SANSAR can do that might excite you?
I think probably my biggest hope for it is actually mainstream the idea of virtual worlds, or mainstream that a little bit more, because I think we've all seen with Second Life there was this hype phase where it got a lot of attention, and then now, I see this with my own class, and you see this as, and evangelizing as well, is that a lot of times people will say, oh, Second Life, that's still around, or, I had no idea, and they don't know what it is, or they don't know what people actually do there. So my hope with SANSAR, for all its potential, all my potential fears about the platform, I do hope that it's able to kind of bring that idea to the masses a little bit more and make it more accepted.
And QB Terra, I'm just going to introduce you as the godfather of aviation in Second Life. Are you not?
Nonsense. No. I've been around a long time. Yeah. 2003 is when I dropped into Second Life for the first time. But when I arrived, let it be known, there were several people making vehicles already. So I learned from them, and I was just maybe more enthusiastic than them. Maybe too enthusiastic. Anyway, I got really wrapped up into it, and so I've been doing that since then, making planes, parachutes, whatever. In real life, I'm a software tech writer. I also do communications writing, and that's that and other stuff. But I won't get into that because it's not relevant. Now,
I've flown a plane in real life.
Have I flown a plane in real life? No, I have not. I have to admit,
I have.
truth comes out. I am. Oh, damn it!
I've flown a glider, and my teacher was a former Luftwaffe pilot. But that's for another time.
Joel, we're talking about SANSAR anxiety, no plane anxiety.
Yeah.
QB,
I saw an excuse to brag.
Okay.
Yes.
Well.
Wait. Let me jump in here, because QB actually quoted, and I was quoting. QB, may you quote yourself in regards to the quote and where it was quoted? I already forgot.
So,
what was it?
Okay, you brought me on the show. You brought me on the show to quote myself. Okay. Well, I'll paraphrase it. Is it paraphrasing if you say it yourself? Okay. It's my opinion that a virtual world where you don't have in-world or at least user-accessible building tools is almost certainly going to fail. And that's before we latch onto that too far. I just want to add to that, saying that I don't know exactly what SANSAR is. I have not seen it like you have, Drax. I've just picked up on rumors and so forth, but my feeling is that Linden Lab had a bad experience letting users do anything they want willy-nilly, and now Second Life has the reputation of being an online sex simulator or something like that. One of my friends told me that. He did. Second Life? Is that kinky sex? I know! It's a kinky sex simulator? No, it's not. But that's the problem. So I think what Linden Lab wants, and I'm just guessing, that they want to control content more, make sure that users don't accidentally have flying penises all over the place, or people walking around nude when it's inappropriate, so that you can have people in their own private spaces. And yes, that brings up a problem that Eric said. You don't have a contiguous virtual world. You can't share things as widely. I'm hoping there's more of that. No accidental sex. What is accidental sex? Sorry, I was just reading one of the comments from somebody here.
Ignore the comments.
Oops, I slipped.
QB, we're gonna get into that detail a little bit later. Real quick, these are important points. Real quick, your biggest hope, or based on, don't you think that Linden Lab has figured out the secret sauce to Second Life, and they're just gonna do it a lot better now?
Oh well, secret sauce. That's Philip Rosedale famously said that sex was the secret sauce that made Second Life work. I think he may have gone overboard with that.
He doesn't always know what he's doing.
the secret sauce for SANSAR is compatibility with headsets, because headsets are everywhere. But the key is going to be which headsets, and it's got to be an approachable headset, which I think is going to be mobile phones. As crappy as they are for VR, the narrow field of view, etc., and the poor resolution, that makes it most approachable to the common person. I think that's what they should aim for, approachability by the average person.
Okay, I gotta move on to Ben Lang, and for some reason, Ben is using the Drax guest avatar, and Kent Bai from Voices of VR podcast used that last. So he on my screen he's still named Kent Bai, but it's actually Ben Lang behind this avatar. Uh, yeah, we should have real name policies in this world. That would be so much better, as Facebook has proven to be.
Yeah.
Ben, hello. Introduce yourself real quick.
Hello. Yes. Despite my name, it is Ben Lang, but that's fine because Kent and I are good friends and have worked together, sort of following this VR industry for many years now. So I am the co-founder and executive editor of Road to VR. We're the leading independent news website for the virtual reality industry, and I'm coming into this conversation as somebody who is not just a sort of a virtual worlds user, but is a virtual, immersive headset sort of user following that space. And so as these virtual worlds and virtual headsets have started to intersect, I became very interested in them, and especially in Second Life because of the sort of foundation and a lot of the learning that it's shown us over the last several years, about what virtual worlds can be.
Ben, you were invited by Linden Lab, and you wrote an article, and you were in there. It was a good article because you didn't hold back with some criticism that you saw. You were not you were not spit shining something. Didn't they bribe you? Didn't they take you out to lunch and tell you to write a super positive article? I mean, come on.
Well, yes, I did recently go to the Linden Lab offices in San Francisco, and I got to see where everything's happening. And a lot of the company is now focused on making SANSAR a reality. Though they stressed that Second Life is still sort of a major part of what's going on. This was probably not news to any of you guys, but to me it was very interesting to hear that in 2016 the GDP of Second Life, Abby said, was $600 million. That is a sizable virtual world, perhaps the biggest one in the world as far as I'm aware. And I think that that's just sort of the tip of the iceberg as far as what virtual worlds will eventually become once they are increasingly approachable with immersive technologies.
Now, what is your biggest fear? I mean, you're not a Second Life addict or enthusiast as we are in that sense. From the outside, what is your biggest fear? And by fear, I guess I mean if you were to look at this critically as a successful business venture, where could it fail? What could be the industry quite well. What is the thing that if they don't get right, it will fail?
Well, I think one of my biggest fears, and this applies to pretty much all virtual worlds, is that they don't take themselves seriously enough to look into the future and say, one day, this virtual world, SANSAR, Second Life, whatever, could become a significant platform that is used in the mainstream. Let's say Facebook, for instance. If you couldn't use Facebook today, there'd be a lot of social digital interaction that you don't necessarily have access to. There's lots of discourse that happens on Facebook. Look at the recent U.S. presidential election is where a lot of these conversations happen digitally, not necessarily, person to person standing in one room to the next. We had this big internet conversation. My concern for these virtual worlds is if they become, these billion user virtual spaces, if they don't believe that they'll get there and realize how significant that is and what it sort of means to discourse in society, if they don't realize that, then they may not realize how critical it is at this early stage to build in a lot of really important privacy rights and other sorts of things into the very foundation of these virtual worlds, it's a little concerning to me that if these things are so successful, and
Yeah.
I think that they will one day be very important, that we won't have a lot of control over them. I mean, Linden Lab is not, it's not a democratic entity. We can't influence it, especially once it reaches a size like Facebook. Facebook's so big, it's like, yeah, you can choose not to use it, but you're losing out. You're not going to change what Facebook does by choosing not to use it at this point. The network effect, as they call it, is so great. There are so many people using it that what you lose from from not using it anymore is a way greater loss than what you would get if you kept using it. And so that means if there's something I don't like about Facebook, let's say some of their privacy policies, just for example, then it's extraordinarily hard to change because it's so important now that there's so many reasons that people use it beyond some particular privacy need, that it's very hard to change and do anything about it. And we can't elect people to make changes that we want. We can't democratically influence the choices that they make. And so because it's important, that's a little bit scary. If these virtual worlds are so important to our discourse and our conversation, I think that we really need to pay attention to what, if they're successful, what sort of rights and privacies do we need to make sure are built in here, so that if Linden Lab, for instance, I don't know, gets acquired by a huge tech company, let's say Facebook, Linden Lab, because SANSAR is really successful.
That's the biggest nightmare of all people, of all Second Lifers.
Oh my god.
You know what, Ben? Wait,
Sure that,
I'm gonna step on you because
privacy.
I'm gonna rudely step on you because you can talk more about this when we got Fam Nutra in there, and Ben, it's really unfair of you that the one show where I am not going to tie this into the whole political context, Ben comes in here and he raises the most important point that is so dear to my heart. Thank you. This is I couldn't agree more with you, because this is actually, I think, a huge potential dystopian nightmare that we're stepping into. But Fam Nutra, our last guest, and then I'll let everybody chime in and I'll sit back and shut up. But Fam Nutra, please introduce yourself and what do you think about Sansar?
Okay, let's try. Sound okay, I hope, because I couldn't make a sound check. Name is Fam Nutra. In real life, I have been the founder of a web agency and a number of other companies. I discovered SL quite early. Actually tried to create a kind of creative agency for Second Life too, in the big Second Life boom, which didn't last long enough to make such a company model successful. These days I'm using Second Life or virtual worlds like it mostly for out of interest, for curiosity, or recreational purpose, looking around. So I'm not business involved in virtual worlds anymore. Still interested in the concept because I believe that one day it will be an important platform. Second Life didn't become such an important platform as everybody expected around the big Second Life boom. And of course, I'm very curious about how Linden Lab approaches more or less the same goals with SANSAR, because I still think, of course, that they want to become big, maybe not an ubiquitous, but a rather big platform, and how they address the challenges or the steps which made it impossible for Second Life to become this kind of platform.
Then let me ask you one follow-up question, and then I'll open the floor to everyone. Why did it not become that big of a platform? I know this is a question where we could literally talk 2 days straight, but Fam, if you were to if you were to answer that question in 5 sentences or less, why did Second Life not become huge? And I'm not asking the question if that was even the goal, or about the expectations. My personal opinion about this is that the hype was partially created in sort of a maelstrom echo chamber by the press as well, and those false expectations that were uh, put out there then had to sort of looked at as a failure. I personally think Second Life is quite success is quite a big success, but again, this has to do with what the expectations were.
We can discuss this for ages, Drax, because I think LinLab certainly aimed higher than they reached, but this is not the discussion today. So why didn't it become so big? In my opinion, there are many causes why this didn't happen. A very important one is that Second Life's biggest advantage is full immersion. Yeah, that compared to the web, you can arrange a situation or a context where people really feel inside a different world, which makes some applications possible and very successful, and you can do it much better here than in other platforms. But at the same time, if you want to shoot big, if you want to reach a really big audience, you have to take into consideration that the time budget for people to really leave First Life and to be totally immersed in a different universe is fairly limited. Yeah. So if you really want to enjoy the advantage of Second Life, to be immersed in a different world, this will always be a fairly small amount of people who have a fairly small amount of time doing this. And in addition, I think a platform to become really big has to be really easily accessible. And even now, I would say that the demands which Second Life makes on the hardware and on the patience of the user are fairly big. Yeah, if you compare it to other big platforms which have become great, like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, whatever, you can use them on the most ubiquitous devices available on Earth right now on a simple phone. Nothing goes wrong a lot with these platforms, so they are fairly easy to use, and this is definitely not the case with Second Life.
So let me throw this out there. First, a couple of things. I want to make clear that although I am participating in SANSAR, I don't know the roadmap that they have set out internally. I've seen it. I'm in it. I'm working on this promotional campaign. I'm under NDA, so I can't talk about uh, anything beyond what's publicly out there. But again, I just want to stress that I'm not in the circle of I don't know, in the inner circle that knows the roadmap or has a copy of it, in sort of actual haptic paper. Now, having said that earlier, I don't know who said it. I think Eric or QB about mobile. Uh, Ebbe has publicly said that Sansar will be on mobile. It will be cross-platform. So
Excellent.
that is knowledge that's been out there. Um, the in-world building tools, that's something I hear a lot. I wouldn't be so sure because there is no information out there where a Linden Lab employee has said that there are no in-world building tools. So I would just leave that open,
Yeah, but
and I would say, hold
it's
on,
about
John,
what
one
we've
sec.
seen.
Right, so far, but it's such a persistent um, rumor that they have abandoned the in-world building tools that it surprises me. It's based on nothing but
I
speculation.
I don't agree. I don't think it's a rumor. It's just simply that many of us are really anxious that we're going to get those because they're really important for us, and we're not seeing them. So it's not like people are saying there's this rumor that we're not going to get any. It's just that we really want them and we're not seeing them. So I think it's a little bit
I understand.
it's the same
No,
but
I
different.
understand the anxiety. I mean, the name of the show today is Sansar Anxiety, so I don't want to make light of that.
No,
When you're passionate about something, and Linden Lab, let's be honest, has a track record of making fairly bad decisions over the years, and still they're fairly successful. Now, I want to throw this out there, and anybody who wants to take it, just jump on it. Um, Now, FAM has spoken about the ease of use, and it looks to me that the press kind of agrees that, um, you know, we or they or the tech industry has obviously figured out that people have a ever lowering attention span. Maybe that has to do. Maybe that's one of the reasons why we have a new president in the United States who can
If I
sort
can
of.
hop in on that one, I would say I'm an ease of user if we're still talking about why Second Life maybe didn't catch on as much as some people thought it would be.
Yeah, go ahead,
If
Ben.
you look at games that were released, not to say that Second Life is just a game, but if you look at games that were released in the same year, around 2003, you have something like Half-Life 2 came out then. For gamers, that's an immediately approachable game. It used commonly understood sort of paradigms of interaction that audience totally got. And then not only did it use a way of interacting sort of with a virtual space that people already understood, it also wrapped that into a narrative and stories and some explicit fun, some particular gameplay mechanics that people really enjoyed. So there's characters, there was story. It really pulled people in, and it's regarded as one of the greatest games ever. It's not like we didn't have the technology back then to make something like Second Life that was as approachable as something like Half-Life 3. Yes, it's complicated, and yes, it does a lot more.
Yeah,
But
Ben,
I
but
think
I'm,
that
I
even back
mm,
era, we were still working on this sort of like Web 2.0 kind of era. That was confusing people at the time. If you look at the Second Life, it's way beyond that. You need to be a serious power user to figure all this out. I know that there's a really broad range of people that use Second Life, and I think have been pulled in because particular things appealed to them that they wanted to do. But I think about if my mom were to try to use this, it would be extraordinarily complicated. I don't think it would ever stick with her because of how complex it is at the get-go. There really needed to be a very gentle learning curve that guided the user through. And I think we understand that now. You see a lot of applications today, when you first fire them up, it'll say, look at this, click here, this does this, now click this, see how you can do this. And they really walk you through a simple guided tutorial. I think we didn't really understand that back then.
that's a good point. That's a valid criticism of Linden Lab of never having been successful with a welcome experience or a tutorial experience. However, I gotta just quickly say that again, and I don't want to get into it. It's so difficult to compare an open-ended virtual world with a game because the complexity in a world where you can literally do anything that you want and you can manipulate things and you can create the environment from scratch is inherently different than anything, even a game that may have an open world concept where you can sort of customize a few things. My
Yeah,
worry,
but
my worry,
Don't
frankly.
disagree
sorry,
there.
Go ahead.
sorry, Drax, but when I was talking about ease of use, I meant a lot of things, not just that people can find the right button to do what they want or that they can orient themselves in Word. Ease of use is, I mean, more in a holistic way. Ease of use means setting up the system, yeah, of course, walking around, finding interesting, entertaining stuff. Of course, you can always say that Second Life or a virtual world, maybe like they are building with SANSAR again, is somehow unique that you do different things. But still, people accept that they can jump in and have fun with a platform like this. And this is quite hard to do still in Second Life, or at least setting up the system, finding out if you have a lot of lag, for example, why does this system not perform the way I want it to be, and so on, and so on, and so on. So there are many factors which can make it rather unpleasant to
For
use Second
a
Life. And I'm saying
Yeah.
this, yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Uh,
this is,
yeah.
I think, something which holds people back. Yeah. So if it's not easy to use to get to the point where I have fun, the motivation is not there, and it's really not useful to compare it with a game with a single goal which I have to reach, where I understand the mechanics exactly. A virtual world certainly is different. For example, even finding a kind of purpose in an open world which people are looking for, yeah, so socialize or whatever. This is not clear in how it is presented, and aside from all the technical problems which persist.
I think
One word before
so
Ben comes in. One word. So I think FAM is primarily also talking, and I agree with that, is discoverability of content. So for the person who is self-motivated, has intrinsic motivation to create something, it's hard to go to the place where they can create stuff. And for the person who just wants to hang out and have fun and chill, it's hard for that person to kind of navigate around. So go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, well, so I was just going to say that I think complexity is definitely part of it. Yes, it's you can do so much. If you look at a program like Photoshop, it does a million things. It's an incredibly powerful piece of software, but it isn't for everybody. And so I think part of the reason why I think that with good design, you can take a complex piece of software and still make it easy to use. And so, yes, I agree with you. There's more complex, but I think that there is a range from well designed for how it can lead people into the experience, and poorly designed. And I think that Second Life, from what we really know now about software design and interaction with computers and apps, I think we can all agree it's pretty rough, or was pretty rough. But yeah, so Photoshop does a million things, and Adobe has realized now that maybe Photoshop isn't for every single user, right? Does every single person in Second Life need to be able to build and create? You guys may have a different opinion,
No, that's a good
but
point,
I guarantee that there's people out there like my mom, for instance, who might really benefit from some of the things that could be done in Second Life. But because there's all this extra stuff around it, it really hinders it really hinders the chance of her doing that. If she had a more focused if the app had a more focused approach of saying you are electing to be you're just going to come into this world and experience what's in this world, compared to somebody else who says even if they just want to hit a button and say I'm a creator, I want all of this extra stuff. I think that choosing your user from the company standpoint, knowing who your target is and how you're designing your software is really important. And I think Second Life cast an extraordinarily wide net that is really difficult for doing simple things like me coming in here and just wanting to do a quick conversation with you. Drax, you set up my avatar here and all that, and I think without that I would be pretty confused. Whereas if it were Skype, it's a
Yeah, but look, I understand. I want to bring in QB and Eric, you guys, that you can jump in here. There's a whole bunch of really interesting input here on the local chat. I mean, we would need hours to go through all this. Hololuck says here, this isn't Facebook, this isn't a video game, this isn't television. Anyone who tries to wedge Second Life into these or similar doesn't understand Second Life. So let me bring in Eric and QB with the following question, because QB, 1 second, then you can take it where you will. But what Ben raised and Fam, I mean, how is SANSAR theoretic? Is Linden Lab going to be able to solve these issues with SANSAR, or are they inherently unsolvable when you actually have a world that provides that kind of unique affordances, like a city, like a big city? I always compare Second Life to Los Angeles versus San Francisco. Europeans love San Francisco. Why? Because they can walk around. It's like a European city, and they just randomly walk around and they find interesting stuff. LA is a fascinating city. I love LA, but it's terrible to navigate. If you don't have a plan, you're going to be stuck in traffic and you will hate it. So you won't find any of the cool museums or the little places. Anyway, Eric, you can jump this, but QB, go ahead.
Can I preface?
Well, assuming
Ben, hold that thought. I want to get QB in real quick.
All right. Assuming that assuming that Linden Lab understand and know exactly what Fam and Ben talked about, projecting forward, what do we think that they would build next? What we would expect them to do is to build something that's approachable, but also it's also possible for users to create their own content. So what that means is that um, we see the majority of the interface focused on the bulk of the users, which are simply social users. Um, and given that there's a smaller proportion, a much, much smaller proportion, don't know what it is, maybe 10, 20% of the population, maybe that's high, that are making content, then there should be a completely different interface for actually creating and editing content and then putting it online, like a staging area, posting it,
Good point.
building it, posting it, and then setting it loose through the regular, the social viewer. So if they're building something that's going to be accessible, all of the building tools have to be completely hidden. And as I think it was Ben who was talking about the interface, it has to be something that's familiar. It has to be something game-like. Has to be standard controls, and you have to leave out all these things where you right-click, edit, or complicating the interface with really impossible things. You should be able to just point and click and do things. So there must be a clear separation of interfaces.
Yeah, I wanted to just add, because I think it's relevant to this question and this current conversation, what I sort of just heard from Linden Lab just recently, which was that they said that between Second Life and Sansar, Ebe said in Second Life they never really found out who their customer was, and when I say their, I mean Linden Lab. They said they were trying to make this really, really broad, really capable, really complex world that could do anything, which is ambitious and amazing, but obviously a huge challenge. And they said we never really settled into deciding, who is our customer. And so he said for Sansar, they said we figured it out. We want to pick one person to be our customer, make sure that we're serving them so that they can serve whatever they do. And so this is this question of focus. And that customer that he said that they chose was the creator is our customer. The creator is who we are making Sansar for. So Sansar, as Abby describes, is not so much a virtual world. It's more like WordPress. It is, and WordPress doesn't advertise and try to get people to come to WordPress-made websites, right? They try to reach people who want to make a website, who want to make a destination, and say, we have the tools to do it, build on us. This is what the Sansar wants to do. They want to serve the creator, make the creator's life really great and easy to make stuff that will, and then the creator and the creation is what is actually attracting the people for its specific use. And I think that focus is going to be a huge improvement and a huge benefit to getting people into a virtual space.
Ben, very well put. And let me just say that I had a conversation with Ebe, I think it was almost 3 years ago when he was coming in, and we met in Santa Cruz, and he wanted to meet me, and we had that conversation, and he said and then or it was over 3 years ago, I recall, but Sansar was not on the horizon. And he said, well, who do you think we should serve as Linden Lab? Should we serve the creators? Should we serve the consumer? And I said, I find that distinction problematic because it assumes that those labels will stick. What I found in my own Second Life, sort of documenting it over almost 10 years now, is that the beauty stems from the fact that people who never thought that they could amount to any kind of creative sort of person became creators because it was a possibility. It didn't reinforce that dualism between creator and consumer, and I found that actually beautiful. Of course, notwithstanding
And
all the problems that we've been discussing, and I could completely
that is
understand. Let me finish this real quick. I could completely understand that Linden Lab, as you said, Ben, are basically tired of administering this sort of Montessori school where everybody can just throw around with colors, and they just want to have kind of a revenue stream that is a little bit more solid, and they know who they're dealing with. I can completely understand that as a father, but I find it, at the same time, I would find it quite sad if we are going into a world where you know, there's a role assigned to us, and we're sort of stuck with that role. Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, because and that is why I'm so obsessed with these building tools. If I came to Second Life and I would not be able to build in world, but I have to learn Blender. When I first came to Second Life and I could not build in world, there would not be a 1920s Berlin. It's that simple. Because I would have said, I'm not going to download Blender and spend weeks or days trying to figure that out just so I can build some stuff. I would have not bothered. So that is why I think that they should one day make it easier for for noobs and amateurs to at least get a chance to make something. It doesn't all have to be amazing.
Well, that is their plan,
Super experiences.
as far as I understand. So what I saw recently when I got to look into SANSAR was, yes, a lot of the creations were sort of built with external tools and brought in, but there is a level of being able to just grab objects that are already made and say, I'm going to put that here, I'm going to scale it,
Yeah,
I'm going to add it.
but I mean actual building, not
of
the
course.
moving about of stuff.
Yeah, but so I think that at minimum, starting at a point where the users have some control. I mean, if I look around, my apartment, for instance, I'm not probably going to build myself a table because that's pretty complex. But I do want to be able to move it and arrange it and put it where I want, and maybe customize it by putting a tablecloth over it. And for a lot of users, that's the extent of what they want. But as long as I have the ability to transition to that easily, or from that easily to saying, I don't like this table so much. I want to totally make something new. I totally agree that you should be able to
how
move
it starts, though.
and transition into that. I agree. I hope that they
Because,
have an easy way to let that person who says, this is neat, but I want to do more. Yeah, you're right. I don't think that it should totally rely on external tools. But again, I think presenting a bit of it, and I guess maybe our discussion is how much
onboarding.
How much should user be able to do is the big question.
There was a quick historical note. There was one time, I forgot when it was, 2009. There were two viewers. Please, folks in the audience, remind me what that was. There were two viewers.
Yeah,
there was a basic viewer, and there
that.
was a basic viewer, and there was an advanced viewer. And this is kind of what Ben was talking about.
Yes.
Earlier is there was one viewer where a lot of stuff was hidden, and then the other viewer was had all the tools. Here was the big problem with that.
Right.
I was in the welcome area. Complete coincidence. Somebody came in new, and she says, wow, this is pretty cool, so what can you do? And I go like, yeah, you can do absolutely anything. Oh, can I customize my avatar? Can I make my avatar look anything I want? And I said, well, SL happens to have the best avatar customizing tool that there is. Just right click and choose appearance. And she goes like, I don't know, I can't do it. And then it occurred to me she was in the basic viewer, and the basic viewer, you could only pick from the list, right? So yeah, that was an oversight in that UI for sure, because then say, okay, you gotta basically log off, and then you gotta re-log. So let me finish this point real quick. Yeah, go ahead, fam.
Drax, you came to this situation with a different expectation. Your expectations were formed by years of experience in Second Life with an all-powerful viewer. And I'm not saying that the basic viewer was a good solution. It was shit, basically. But if you look at other platforms, for example, look at the web, it's fairly common knowledge. People know that if they want to build a nice website, they cannot do this inside of Chrome, inside of Firefox, or whatever browser they use. So they need some other ways to do it. Of course, if you just want to create something, create content, there are tools like that for WordPress or even simpler tools where you can do it. But you have different tools for different purposes, and nobody is expecting that the same surrounding, the same tool set you use is available for consuming what there is, just browsing it, just walking through the world and making great new content. So this assumption that this has to be one unified software, I think it's all wrong.
But
Fam, I agree with you. Wait, I agree with you, but I'm still the moderator. Quiet, children. Fam, I completely agree with you, and let me just clarify that I thought this was an example where the basic viewer was just really not well designed. What Ben suggested earlier, if there were a button on the corner, like red button. Are you sure you want to unleash everything right now? Boom, hit this button. That would have been cool. But they had someone coming in, and they didn't know who she was, but she was someone who picked the basic viewer, but that was someone who wanted more. And that person was put off by the fact that, hey, I can't do it. What is this shit? So
Yeah,
it's hard
I
to.
wrote about that as well.
And going forward with SANSAR, now in the VR ecosystem, there are so many. There are so many little VR experiences that are so inherently creative. I am frankly worried that SANSAR will just, I don't know. Maybe it's like an IKEA showroom or something. I don't know.
I feel like we're having a huge conversation about design, and I mean that's really all we're talking about. It needs to be easy to use. People need to be able to understand it, whether it's new or not. And I think it ends up being relative in many cases. It just it needs to use paradigms, and it needs to work in a way that sort of meets the expectations of the user of that era. That user back when Second Life launched was different and expected different things. Today, users have certain expectations for how apps work and how they can navigate virtual spaces with particular input devices. But I think the big thing that we all want is important is really options and interoperability, because we're all different users here. We all want different things out of these virtual worlds. It's clear from how we're going about this conversation, and we, as long as SANSAR can be something that has a lot of interoperability, so that yes, you could build basic stuff in World if you want, or if you want to go really advanced and Blender, be able to bring Blender stuff in. I think as long, if we want it to be a world that is truly useful for just a huge number of people, it needs to have widespread interoperability with a lot of different sort of creation, sharing, and interaction tools, headsets, inputs, everything. But it needs to be designed well.
Yeah, but that's a given. I mean, I agree with that. But the issue remains is that if I think the secret sauce to me of Second Life is, and the secret sauce again, I mean, I look at Second Life as a huge success for a very small niche group. Again, for an investor in Linden Lab or for some VC in Silicon Valley, this is an utter failure. But when when my son was born, I went out and I bought a violin. I bought a violin with 4 strings. The other parents said, "Are you nuts? How expensive is this crap?" So it's not that expensive. I bought it on a garage sale, but it's a real instrument. Yeah, but he can't play it. He's gonna be like frustrated, and and it's gonna sound like crap and blah blah blah. I bought my daughter a keyboard like with 3 keys on it. That have 3 different sounds. I don't know, where am I going with this analogy? I guess no,
I'm not
but
sure.
okay. Here's the thing.
Anyway.
No,
That's a good story, though.
no.
Yeah, great. Anyway.
Here's the thing. You are limiting people's options if you label them a certain way. Yes, I agree with everyone. I don't design my own website. Squarespace to the rescue. QB, you gotta mute your mic when you're typing. Squarespace and WordPress to the rescue. If those tools didn't exist, I wouldn't have a website. I understand that. And there's onboarding, and then you can peel back the onion and you can learn more, and so on and so forth. But the in-world building tools of Second Life and the complexity that brings with it is just enormously important. There's no way around it, and that's why I'm telling you that story with that violin. Yeah, not every kid will become a musician, but why would you limit anyone from the get-go by saying, yeah, no, you can't make that sofa. Yes, Ben, I'm not making my own table, but it would be cool if somebody would give me a chainsaw. Why would I take a chainsaw to the table?
Not be.
I don't think that's a good idea.
Nobody should ever give you a chainsaw.
Why do I think of chainsaws today? Is it inauguration day?
I was going to say, how do you build a table with a chainsaw? You need hammers and nails.
Well, I've seen people build tables with chainsaws.
I need to destroy something
Easy.
first. Okay, guys, take it where you will.
Anyway,
I've talked enough.
Can I ask a question?
Sorry, I'll go next.
There's one thing that we're forgetting, and that is also very essential. I mean, I hope they're gonna I'd like to see them experiment with a basic and advanced viewer again, but do it right this time, because they messed it up. But another thing that is very important, at least to me, that was essential for me actually staying in Second Life, is making sure that new users are brought to a place that they like, that they find something that appeals to them. Because once once I in Second Life realized, found a place that I liked, and realized I could rebuild historical locations and listen to old music and watch old movies, I was hooked. I was doomed, and I didn't care how much complicated stuff I had to learn, and I didn't care about the lag. I didn't care about any of the issues that usually scare people away, because you find something that you like, and suddenly your brain starts working and creative things start flowing in. So,
but Joe, we already have a paradigm for doing this. For example, if you look at how it happens on the web, it's called Google, it's called searching, it's called curating and whatever. And sorry, I wasn't in SANSAR so far, but what I understood is that they more or less abandoned the idea of a continuous world, which I was in love with in Second Life. I really like it.
Yes, that's the other aspect.
If I look at Second Life right now, it has evolved by user input, and a lot of things, most things actually, are happening in rooms, in clubs, in single small islands, and of course there are still these old linden continents, and it's beautiful to fly over them. But even the land business, or the big companies reselling Sims, they have fragmented. So this is obviously a decision by the users that only a small minority of them wants to have this continuous land where they can explore. And if we only have these small locations, I think we can use the existing paradigms, as I said, of searching around, of curating, of presenting samples, and then you just look up what is available. So I think this is the smallest issue.
Yeah, I think this is a key understanding that Linden Lab gets now after watching, all the evolution that's happened in Second Life, which is you, as Joe said, you want to find something immediately as a user that you understand that this is useful for you. If you just say, let's say I'm YouTube, for instance, and I say, hey Drax, come to YouTube. We have 80 million videos. Come watch videos. That's neat, but it's so much more compelling if I send you an awesome video and just link you to it and you watch it. Now you're using YouTube. I didn't have to appeal to you by saying, there's 80 million things. You probably would only ever see 0.01 or like 0.01% of it.
Ben,
so let me bring you in with that.
I am not. In that sense, I'm not the target audience for SANSAR, because if you would say, "Hey Drax, I'm in a library that is as big as an entire city. Come in there. I have no idea what's in here, and I can't recommend a single book, but come on in here," I would come immediately.
Same here.
I'm a niche.
I think you are unique for sure.
No,
that's a very nice way of putting it.
That's a nice way of putting it. Other people have called me annoying and crazy.
Special.
You've got to look at people who have, limited time, who are not necessarily prone to going and doing, new things that they don't understand. Like, what is this virtual world? What does this offer me? You need to hook them. This is probably, I can only imagine, sacrilege to bring up a comparison between Second Life and Minecraft. But if you think about the success of Minecraft, it does so much less than Second Life. So on paper, it's like, why would you ever use Minecraft if you could come into Second Life and build whatever you want? It's just because it's easy to use and lets people sort of make their fun. It needs to... Yes, it's so much basic, but for particular people, they can go in there and say, "This is cool. I can build super simple," and then you need the hook. And I think Second Life's big marketing challenge was saying, I think, as I say, Linden Lab identified this correctly now, was just trying to market the entire world. Imagine, you going out to an alien race, and they have a lot of different worlds they can go to, and say, "Come to ours. It's really cool. It's Earth. There's a million billion things to do here." they might be a lot more interested if you say, we have one, the coolest thing you've ever seen. Look at it right here. This particularly appeals to you. That's how you hook someone and then get them into the world to figure out everything else that's there.
And
I cannot argue
if
with
I
that.
was in charge of Second Life, if I was in charge of Second Life, the first thing I would show new users is the destination guide,
You
or
can be a
the
vampire.
places, pages, the things that we've got now.
Um,
So the first thing you see is all these sections and subjects. You think, oh, I like that subject, and oh, there are all the, like this kind of music, or their clubs. Let's go there.
Guys,
So
I have to
How's
cut.
that in SANSAR, Drax? How's that in SANSAR? Because we've seen pictures and we've seen video of how you can choose.
There's an
where you
atlas, I
wanna
think,
go.
The atlas.
that was shown. There's an atlas, and you can pick those. We didn't really get much into Eric. You just mentioned that private versus public spaces. That's another subject that I wanted to touch on. We're out of time, and I have to run in 15 minutes sharp. I want to mention a couple things, and then last words, Eric and QB. Ben, I cannot argue with your logic. You're absolutely right about that. I just hope that we don't lose something. I think in the best possible world, we can have both. In the best possible world, we can provide, just like YouTube, if you would take that analogy, YouTube also has fabulous feature-length documentaries for the likes of me, as well as fail videos. So let's hope that that SANSAR will provide sort of both. I want to mention two things. Bernhard Dörrie, subject of the Drax Files, episode 40, well-known German filmmaker and secret Second Life resident, has passed away on Sunday. Very sad. He was not of good health, but he shared his story with us through this video, and I'm so glad that we got to finish and we put it out there and kind of have this little remembrance of him, because he was really forgotten, and he was an important filmmaker in the post-war German filmmakers guild. Secondly, Loki Elliott, one of our 5 podcast listeners, thank you, Loki, keep this podcast strong, just as big as Second Life in comparison, has alerted me that Mark Zuckerberg has testified in the ZeniMax trial. ZeniMax is suing Oculus because they allege theft, they allege code was stolen, and certain things were misrepresented, and it's my understanding. I'm not sure if Pamalaki testified.
We had to get out of hiding.
Right. There's a Twitter account that is I think tracking where he is or where he isn't. Where is Palma?
Yeah, he's been missing since what.
But that's certain. I think it's a very interesting case. And then one more sentence, what we mentioned earlier. Let's keep speculating about SANSAR. I'm getting a lot of messages here, but let's also keep in mind that it's ultimately just speculation, and things can change. Wow, that's real hope for you
Deep.
On this day. That's real deep. Eric,
Very optimistic.
any last words, Eric? Optimism about virtual worlds. Do virtual worlds have a future?
I think they do. I think just to kind of add briefly onto something people were saying is I think that the issue with comparing it to the YouTube paradigm and looking at discoverability and is that it's a little different with Second Life. You have the spaces in between. I've found amazing things on the mainland just by traveling around, taking a train, walking, flying. I found the D Lab. So I think it's slightly inaccurate to compare the two. Again, you go to YouTube, you don't know what to search. There's all these videos, might have recommended videos, but I think there's something to be said for having that actual space, even if it's virtual space that you can traverse. There's, it's not perfect, obviously, and I think with Second Life, one of the issues definitely is and always has been discoverability, finding the great places to go. The destination guide is great, but doesn't do everything it needs to. Search is still problematic. So I think one of the issues is that being in Second Life, if you're a new user, there's a community of bloggers, of podcasters, YouTubers, who, especially bloggers like Inara and others, who recommend amazing spaces to go look at.
That's
but
right.
as a new user, you're not necessarily aware of that community. And I think that goes to the point that Second Life is a community, and it's not just learning your way around the world, the interface, which is problematic, but also figuring out where the community is and where to look. I'm not really answering your question, but you're saying what, the optimism for virtual worlds?
Yeah, and you know what? And what about? Oh God, I gotta run in 5 minutes. I gotta catch the train. I gotta catch the train to the mainland. And then I'm going to go through areas that I would otherwise never see. Eric, how about what you just said?
Exactly.
And we were talking about mainland. How about SANSAR will provide, and Ebbe has hinted at that land may actually be free. Let's just say SANSAR will provide you with free land that is so huge that you and your pals can build an entire sub-world. Kind of like in Otherland,
Yay.
a novel that was recommended by someone who
Yeah,
was on this
Tad
panel.
Williams.
Now go ahead, Eric. Wouldn't that solve all the
No, I was
problems?
I mean, I think that I like, by the way, yeah, that series is amazing by Ted Williams, the 4-part Otherland. But with SANSAR, I mean, I think definitely if the regions themselves are big enough where you can have a sense world, and again, I don't really know if we have been told exactly what the sizes of the
I think at
SANSAR
least
experiences will be.
4
4 by 4
regions.
kilometers.
I think that's the smallest example that Ebbe has given, but that's all we know.
Okay, I mean, I think that makes things a little bit better, but at the same time, I don't know. I have various issues. I'm idealistic in some ways and also skeptical, but I think there's definitely something to be said for having a space that you can control. You can decide exactly what goes on there, but I think you do lose something by losing that ability to connect them in different ways. And just to kind of go back to what you mentioned about Bernhard Dorius, the man who passed away, unfortunately, this past weekend, is I think you mentioned on a comment on Inara's blog about that video, is that for some people, we don't necessarily know what portion of the Second Life population, but for some people, this focus that SANSAR has and High Fidelity has and other VR platforms have on VR headsets, I mean, for some people that might not actually make it more intuitive or accessible.
Yes.
For some people that make it more of a challenge. I mean, even for people whose bodies do let them use a headset, I mean, not everyone pays 100% attention to Second Life all the time while they're in world. You're looking at other windows, you're watching your kids, you're
I'm
doing
watching
other
television
things.
right now.
Hey, Joe's what? She's not even paying attention.
No,
That's not news.
But it's like, but you have that ability to, I think, multitask, and I think that's one of the things I think that I look at with SANSAR and High Fidelity and all these worlds is that first of all, we don't know if the VR headset industry will, take off or when it will take off at the consumer mainstream level. And I think one of the issues is that a lot of us in this year have become very accustomed with our phones and other technology to multitasking, to be in different apps and things at the same time, to be doing multiple things at once. And I don't necessarily know if, building a world that is so heavily invested in accessing it through a VR headset, if that really fits with the way we actually live.
That's actually something that I hope VR is bringing back, is actually single tasking, because the multitasking is
I mean,
it's
that's
not
a good point.
thing. Yeah, because you're fully engaged and focused in one thing, like playing an instrument or
yeah,
being.
it would be, it would be quite a
very
nice.
true.
QB, you
To
got
be
a
true.
couple minutes. QB, what do you think? Are you psyched about Sansar?
Huh. Well, I'm going to end on a positive note, I think, which is unusual for me.
That is.
If we...
You've changed, QB. What's happened to you?
Yeah. If we... I think we all might be judging Sansar, but by maybe the wrong criteria. Think of how the ways in which Second Life was was considered a failure, and this was brought up earlier, in that the media hyped it as something that it never could be.
Mhm.
You know,
Yes.
the virtual world that everybody would be in, and you know that
Virtual internet.
yeah, that's
The
and it never
metaverse.
could be
3D,
that.
3D internet.
So if we judge Sansar by how much like Second Life it is, we're going to be disappointed, very disappointed. I think what we should do is wait and see what amazing thing that Linden Lab has come up with next, and then we get on their case and bug them for changes. So I think
Yeah.
Second Life could be something really new and exciting, and I think we should wait and see what that is. I'm really looking forward to it.
The proof is in the pudding.
QB,
Linden will
as
have a
a
chance.
QB, the former Linden QB, has had the last word. That's the show. Thank you so much for coming. We had a whole bunch of viewers on YouTube. I'm sorry, YouTube guys. I ignored all your input. It's a lot of good input there. It's always challenging to moderate a program with a humming headset. Uh, and so many guests. Yes, and we will do a show that is longer today. I just got to bail. You guys are, of course, free to roam here in the time portal, or go in and out and watch some YouTube videos. Thank you so much for being on the panel, and thanks for being in the audience. And I'm gonna cut the live stream. Joe.
I haven't said auf Wiedersehen yet.